Hello fantasy faithfuls and welcome to Football Breakdown here at CSD Fantasy. In this third video, I'm breaking down the nickel and dime defenses to help better your football knowledge, so let's dig in. Nickel and dime are defensive packages teams can deploy to better account for certain situations that an offense throws at them. You can run both defenses playing man or zone, but the big difference is playing with 6 defensive backs in dime, and in nickel, you play with 5 defensive backs. Both are extremely useful to defend the pass and get better matchups so you don't end up with a linebacker on a shifty slot receiver. A team going with a nickel or dime package needs to be careful with running offenses. Without the extra linebacker or lineman makes your defensive front less populated with more holes in it. This is a big advantage to the big offensive linemen that can move your smaller defensive backs or the tight end that creates space easier versus a smaller defender. Before we dig deeper, let's go over the legend for this episode. X will be defensive backs, circle would be a linebacker, black square signals man marking, yellow square signals zone marking, a football is always the quarterback, and the player will represent a skill position on the offense, meaning receiver, tight end, or running back. And now let's have a look at the dime defense. For a dime defense, we need 6 defensive backs, and I will show 2 examples to make it clear what this means. In the first example, we're running a man-to-man defense with pressure on the quarterback. So we have a quarterback, of course. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 defensive backs for this to be a dime defense, and let's throw a linebacker in there to round out the defensive package for this example. The offense will be in a 4 receiver set with 2 outside receivers and 2 slot receivers, and this is a man-to-man. With pressure, we will have man marking on all receivers with our defensive backs, but the right slot back will put pressure on the quarterback when the ball is snapped. We will put even more pressure on the quarterback by having one of our safeties come up as well, while the other safety takes on the man-to-man duties on the right slot receiver. Keep in mind these 3 keys for this example. Pressure on the quarterback, it should be an obvious passing down. Match up with the opponent if they come out with a 2 tight end set. This is not ideal. Before we take a look at a real life situation, I want to show you one more example. In this one, we will run a man-to-man zone hybrid dime defense. That means that we will have man marking on the outside receivers and have the rest of our defense cover zones. So we have the quarterback, of course, we have 6 defensive backs again, and 1 linebacker. The offense will again deploy a 4 wide receiver set, and as I said before, we will cover the outside guys with man marking. The slot corners will cover 1 zone each of either side of the linebacker that will cover the middle. The 2 deep safeties will provide additional coverage in case a receiver gets free. This helps us potentially have double coverage on several receivers. If one gets open, there are players back to cover for the guy that dropped his man. Keep in mind these 3 keys for this example. First, the safeties are there to help the man-to-man marking. Second, it should be an obvious passing down on this play as well, as the safeties are deeper and not ready to defend the run. Third, watch out for a scrambling quarterback as there is less pressure on him if he can get away from the pass rush. For the real-world example, I want us to look at what the Patriots do on this play. They have a dime defense with man-to-man on the outside, 1 deep safety, and 1 safety up a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. This play is almost a perfect example of what a man-to-man zone hybrid dime package looks like. The outside corners are covering their man tight, while the deep safety is helping the left corner as his man is targeted. The rest of the guys are running a zone as the high safety switches his attention from the slot receiver to the running back, and the linebacker takes over. Let's watch this play at full speed before we look at the nickel defense. In a nickel defense, we need 5 defensive backs, and I will show 2 examples to make it clear what this means before we look at the real world example. In the first one, we have a straight man-to-man defense. So we have a quarterback as usual. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 defensive backs with the offense in a 3 wide receiver set with a tight end to the right and a running back in the backfield. Our corners are picking up their man, and one of our safeties will move up to spy the running back. He should not be allowed to run a route and hurt us. Our last corner will cover the wide out, and our last safety will move up and cover the tight end. Keep in mind these 3 keys for this example. You have to be ready for a running back or a tight end to run a route. Can your team match the speed and size differences? Second, be flexible in coverage, meaning don't put a small safety on a tight end like Travis Kelce. Third, it should be an obvious passing down on this play, even with us having an extra safety covering the running back. In the last example, we are running a straight zone defense. So we have a quarterback as always. We again have our 5 defensive backs for this to be a nickel defense. But let's throw a linebacker in there in this example to better show the zones. The offense will have a 4 wide receiver set with a running back in the backfield. In the zone defense, our corners will have zones to cover instead, so the first one drops back to cover the intermediate zone. The slot corner will cover the flat to the left. The same happens on the right, of course. The safety will fall back deep to give coverage in case someone loses coverage on a deep route. And lastly, the linebacker will cover the middle of the field. And keep in mind these 3 keys for this example. Don't give away the coverage too fast, meaning don't be too fast in falling back to your zone. Second, be strict in coverage. If you all of a sudden start playing man-to-man, a zone will be uncovered. And lastly, it should be an obvious passing down as always. We are leaving a lot of empty field for a running back to exploit on a draw play. Looking at a real-world example, we're going to look at the Buffalo Bills. They have a nickel defense playing zone, similar to our zone example from before with some minor differences. They have 2 linebackers in the middle, 1 slot corner, 1 deep safety and 1 high safety, and 2 outside corners. The corners will drop back and let the linebackers cover inside the numbers, closer to the line of scrimmage. The deep safety is covering the receiver going deep up the seam. With the coverage being extremely strict, we see that there's almost no openings for the quarterback to go with the football, and eventually the 4-man rush gets to him. Let's watch this play at full speed. To summarize, the dime defense is a defense with 6 defensive backs on the field, and the nickel is a defensive package with 5 defensive backs on the field. The packages are most suitable for obvious passing downs and when the offense is deploying 3 or 4 wide receiver sets. The downside is like a pass rush, you don't rush a safety and you don't have much run stopping ability. Thank you so much for joining me today. Check out more football breakdowns with my route tree and running gap video. For CSD Fantasy, till next time. Hello Fantasy Faithful, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to check out more of them right here and here. In case you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat.